Gen Z4 Natal-to-Navamsha Nakshatra Pada analysis. Ascendant and first house, Gemini in Mrigashira Nakshatra. Fourth Pada, Navamsha Scorpio, first house. Natal chart expression, outer self. With the ascendant in Gemini, Gen Z4's outer self is adaptable, curious, and mentally agile, showing a strong preference for communication, versatility, and exploration. Gemini ascendants tend to engage with the world through intellect, humor, and experimentation. Yet, this isn't a superficial mind, because it's anchored in Mrigashira Nakshatra, a star associated with searching, refinement, and emotional curiosity. Mrigashira is ruled by Mars, but carries a delicate lunar flavor, often expressing itself through a playful yet restless need to pursue emotional and sensory experiences. The fourth pada of Mrigashira maps to Cancer Navamsha, but in this case, the Navamsha sign is Scorpio in the first house, revealing an intense, inwardly secretive self-image that contrasts the breezy outer Gemini. The fourth pada of Mrigashira carries karmic imprints of emotional exploitation or betrayals in past lives, often through misusing someone's trust or emotional boundaries. This native's early life might involve situations where they feel pulled between outward lightness and inward heaviness, and struggle to reconcile external charm with internal depth and suspicion. Navamsha placement. Scorpio in first house, inner self. Internally, the self-image is intense, strategic, and driven by emotional survival mechanisms. Scorpio's presence in the Navamsha first house gives Gen Z4 a penetrating internal gaze, one that hides their real intentions and emotions beneath a protective shell. While the Gemini outer shell seeks novelty and engages easily, the Scorpio Navamsha doesn't forget wounds and rarely forgives easily. This reveals a core contradiction. The native may externally appear spontaneous, scattered, or flirtatious, but internally they are hyper-focused, deeply intuitive, and cautious about whom they trust. Emotional protection and energetic boundaries become a major subconscious drive, influencing even simple decisions like who they speak to or what they reveal. Integration. The curious mind versus the guarded soul outward style. Friendly, explorative, changeable, emotionally inquisitive, often expressive and experimental in appearance, language, and ideas. Inward style. Emotionally guarded, strategic, skeptical, intensely private, deeply connected to psychic impressions and ancestral instincts. Cash. Core conflict. The need for connection and curiosity. Often clashes with the fear of emotional betrayal and the tendency to hide true intentions, Scorpio Navamsha. This can lead to relationships that start lightly but quickly become intense or end suddenly due to hidden emotional triggers. Karmic implication of Mrigashira fourth pada. This pada points to past life karmas involving misuse of emotional information or exploiting trust, especially around home, property, food, or caregiving. Cancer, Virgo themes. In this life, the person must learn to balance emotional openness with discretion and to use their intuitive intelligence for healing rather than for defense or withdrawal. Summary of first house synthesis. Gen Z4 is a seeker of truth and transformation, cloaked in curiosity and wit. The natal Gemini ascendant gives them the tools of communication, humor, and exploration, but their soul's path, Navamsha Scorpio, demands emotional depth, shadow work, and inner integrity. Their power lies in knowing when to reveal and when to retreat, when to analyze and when to feel. By harmonizing the duality of Gemini's lightness and Scorpio's depth, they evolve into a messenger of profound truths, cloaked in clever conversation, using both playfulness and wisdom to navigate their world. Sun and Mercury in first house Sun, Gemini, Mrigashira Nakshatra. Fourth pada, Navamsha Scorpio, Mercury, Gemini, Ardra Nakshatra. Third pada, Navamsha Aquarius, fourth house. Sun in Mrigashira, fourth pada, Navamsha Scorpio, first house. The Sun, representing the soul, identity, father, and authority, placed in Gemini suggests that Gen Z4 seeks validation through mental engagement, communication, and expression of ideas. However, Mrigashira Nakshatra, ruled by Mars and associated with the search for emotional fulfillment, adds a restless, exploratory quality to the native's identity. The fourth pada maps to Scorpio Navamsha, indicating that although the outer identity appears agile and intellectual, the internal self is intense, emotionally deep, and power conscious. The Sun here indicates a soul that is searching for inner authority and depth, often through crises, transformation, or encounters with shadow emotions. This native may appear lighthearted or non-threatening, but there is a silent inner need to maintain control, to be respected in subtle ways, and to guard their core sense of self fiercely. The relationship with the father might also reflect this duality, appearing communicative on the surface, but emotionally complex or involving themes of hidden power struggles. Karmic note: the soul carries past life imprints of misuse or manipulation of authority through intellect and must now develop integrity through self-honesty and emotional courage. Mercury in Ardra, 3rd Pada. Navamsha Aquarius, 4th house. Mercury, the planet of intellect, speech, adaptability, and information, placed in Gemini, its own sign, makes it strong and dominant in shaping this personality. In Ardra Nakshatra, ruled by Rahu, Mercury becomes more volatile, destructive, brilliant, disruptive, and reformist in mental expression. The 3rd Pada of Ardra, mapping to Aquarius Navamsha, brings an internal identity that is humanitarian, detached, and idea-oriented. Mercury here thinks not just for entertainment or debate, as Gemini suggests, but to solve systemic or futuristic problems, often unconventionally. However, Ardra's intense emotional undertones mean that words are used as weapons or shields. Communication is never neutral. There can be sarcasm, emotional manipulation, or bursts of brilliance that come with mental overstimulation. Internally, there is a need to express truth that serves the collective, but externally, it may appear scattered, provocative, or emotionally erratic. Karmic note: Mercury in Ardra suggests past lives where words caused harm or deception, and in this life, the native must purify speech and develop ethical communication rooted in service to the greater good. Integration: ego expression meets cognitive intensity. Sun Scorpio Navamsha, a soul driven by transformation, craving emotional depth and unshakable self-respect, seeks power through understanding hidden motives. Mercury Aquarius Navamsha, a mind trained to question systems, deliver innovation, and carry emotional clarity disguised as logic. Deep need to express for impact, not attention. Core conflict: the outward self wants to appear witty, pleasant, and curious, Gemini, but internally, there is a burning need to be taken seriously, to impact meaningfully, and to control perception. This tension between lightness and depth creates constant friction in how the native asserts themselves, forms opinions, and navigates recognition. Summary of Sun and Mercury in 1st house synthesis. Gen Z4 expresses with charisma and intellectual fluidity, yet this personality is rooted in emotional depth, karmic tension, and transformational intellect. The Sun brings an inner intensity masked by mental agility, while Mercury brings brilliant, piercing communication driven by emotional memory and collective ideals. The challenge is to align these, to speak with emotional intelligence and lead with vulnerability, not control. When the soul stops searching for authority outside and starts anchoring truth within, Gen Z4 becomes a thought leader with emotional resonance, able to speak, move, and inspire with both clarity and care. 3rd house, Leo in Maga Nakshatra planet placed, Rahu in Maga, 3rd Pada Navamsha Gemini, 8th house. Natal chart expression, communication, siblings, courage, and personal will. The 3rd house governs communication style, courage, younger siblings, short journeys, and personal initiative. With Leo ruling this house, Gen Z4 approaches these domains with flair, individuality, and a deep desire to be recognized as authoritative and influential in how they speak, write, or express ideas. This house in Leo indicates a confident or theatrical communicator, often trying to lead through voice, influence, or thought. But the presence of Rahu here in Maga Nakshatra, specifically the 3rd Pada, transforms this Leo energy into something more intense and karmically charged. Maga, ruled by Ketu and symbolized by the royal throne, connects the native to ancestral lineage, status, and recognition. With Rahu, the shadow planet of obsession, illusion, and unorthodox strategy, occupying this throne, Sarah, Gen Z4, may carry a compulsive need to be heard, obeyed, or admired, especially in verbal or social environments. In the 3rd Pada, which maps to Gemini Navamsha, Rahu gains double Mercury influence, Gemini-Leo blend, leading to cunning, fast-talking, and intellectually adaptive communication, but also potential for manipulation, exaggeration, or emotional detachment in expression. She may over-identify with being clever, bold, or heard, even when what is being said lacks emotional depth. Navamsha placement, Gemini in 8th house, inner self of communication and mental energy. In the Navamsha chart, Rahu falls in Gemini in the 8th house, revealing that communication is linked to transformation, hidden knowledge, and psychological undercurrents. While she may speak loudly or charmingly in public, Leo 3rd, internally, her voice is connected to secrecy, fear of exposure, and an obsession with depth. There is a karmic hunger to control how truth is revealed. She may withhold, distort, or overanalyze to protect her inner vulnerability. The 8th house Navamsha dimension adds emotional risk to every act of communication. Words aren't just words, they are tools of protection, control, or unveiling. She may obsessively research, speak in layers, or use language to assert psychic power rather than transparency. Integration, public eloquence versus private power play. Outward style, Leos Rahu, charismatic speaker, loves storytelling, drama, and commanding attention through ideas. May try to dominate group discussions or carry a subtle superiority in voice. Inward style, Gemini Navamsha 8th, strategic, emotionally protective communicator, uses language to mask inner turmoil or to navigate vulnerability without appearing exposed. Core conflict. There is a tension between the need to be seen as powerful in communication, Leo Rahu, and the fear of emotional nakedness, Gemini in 8th Navamsha. Sarah may struggle to speak honestly when she feels psychologically threatened, and may resort to charm, intellect, or dominance to hide emotional truth. Karmic implication of Rahu in Magha, 3rd Pada. This placement carries past life karmas related to egoic use of voice, manipulation of family or social status, or controlling narratives for personal power. In this life, she must learn to use communication for elevation, not domination, to speak truth that liberates rather than seduces or controls. There may also be unfinished karmic entanglements with siblings or cousins, involving betrayal, hierarchy, or miscommunication that must now be healed through openness and humility. Summary of 3rd house synthesis. Gen Z4 has a lion-hearted voice shaped by ancestral karma and intellectual mastery, but shadowed by emotional defense mechanisms. Her Rahu-powered 3rd house gives her a potent ability to influence and impress, but it is only when she releases the need to dominate and embraces honest, soul-aligned communication that her true voice shines. Her dharma is to transform from a performer to a truth-teller, using language to heal, uplift, and restore emotional transparency in herself and others. 9th house. Aquarius and Shatabisha Nakshatra planet placed, Ketu and Shatabisha, 1st Pada, Navamsha Sagittarius, 2nd house. Natal chart expression, beliefs, higher learning, ethics, and father figure. The 9th house represents one's belief system, higher education, philosophical views, long-distance travels, and relationship with mentors or father figures. With Aquarius here, Gen Z4 approaches these areas with a rational, unconventional, and humanitarian mindset. Aquarius in the 9th seeks truth through science, systemic reform, or visionary detachment, rather than emotional or devotional immersion. Shatabisha Nakshatra, ruled by Rahu and symbolized by a circle of 100 healers, is a nakshatra of secrecy, isolation, and karmic healing. It carries themes of breaking down illusions and finding liberation through solitude, logic, and subtle rebellion. With Ketu, the Moksha Karaka, planet of spiritual detachment and karmic residue, placed here, the 9th house becomes a field of dissolution, internal withdrawal, and spiritual disinterest in conventional dogmas. Ketu in the 1st Pada, mapping to Sagittarius Navamsha, intensifies the philosophical weight of this placement. Sagittarius is naturally aligned with the 9th house, which adds a layer of inherited wisdom or intuitive morality. However, with Ketu here, there's also a past life saturation. The native has likely exhausted or disengaged from traditional teachings, rituals, or fatherly advice. She may either resist ideology or adopt beliefs in isolation without attachment or evangelism. Navamsha placement, Sagittarius in 2nd house, inner belief orientation and value system. In the Navamsha, Ketu falls in Sagittarius in the 2nd house, showing that Sarah's inner belief system is philosophical, value-driven, and guided by dharmic memory, but simultaneously nonverbal and nonlinear. She doesn't speak her beliefs easily, she embodies them silently. There's a tendency to reject superficial or commercial spirituality and value wisdom that comes from direct experience, loss, or renunciation. The The second house relates to speech, values, and early conditioning. Ketu here shows past life spiritual renunciation or exile from family. And in this life, she may feel a subconscious discomfort with material attachment or speaking about beliefs openly. She might prefer to teach by example, not through doctrine. Integration. Detached belief versus inner moral gravity. Outward style, Aquarius Ketu. Distant, impersonal, or erratic in approach to religion and tradition. May avoid group ideologies and resist mentor figures or societal expectations around education. Inward style, Sagittarius Navamsha. Anchored in silent, experiential wisdom. Feels truth intuitively and aligns with ethical living, even if unable or unwilling to explain why. Core conflict. There is a split between the rational rejection of traditional belief structures, Aquarius Shatabisha, and an internal moral compass that deeply values silent principles, Sagittarius second house. Sarah may outwardly challenge or appear indifferent to philosophy or faith, but internally, she is bound by strong, if unspoken, ethical codes inherited from previous incarnations. Karmic implication of 2 in Shatabisha, first Pada. This placement suggests past life mastery or over-identification with rigid belief systems or institutional ideologies, possibly as a reformer, healer, or social dissenter. In this life, Sarah must now release the need to prove belief and focus on quiet embodiment. Her karmic healing unfolds when she withdraws from ideological battles and becomes a vessel of truth, not an agent of conversion. There may also be ancestral karma with father figures, mentors, or priests, often involving abandonment, betrayal, or philosophical estrangement. Healing comes through forgiveness and compassionate detachment. Summary of ninth house synthesis. Gen Z4 carries a quiet, intuitive belief system rooted in past life wisdom and karmic fatigue. With Aquarius in the ninth and Ketu in Shatabisha, she is meant to strip down ideology to essence, keeping what feels soul true while discarding what no longer serves. Her dharma is not to preach, but to walk silently in alignment with truth. When she accepts her role as a spiritual minimalist, living her values rather than speaking them, she becomes a guiding star for others in transition, illuminating the path with stillness, not sermons. 10th house, Pisces in Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra, planet placed, Jupiter in Purva Bhadrapada, 4th Pada, Navamsha Cancer, 9th house. Natal chart expression, career, status, public duty, and authority. The 10th house signifies profession, societal contribution, karma, and one's visible stature in the world. With Pisces ruling this house, Gen Z4 is likely to approach career and status with imagination, empathy, and a sense of divine mission. Pisces as a sign dissolves the ego in favor of service or creativity, making her public karma more about inspiration and healing than conquest or control. The presence of Jupiter in Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra, especially in the 4th Pada, adds moral gravity and idealism to this placement. Purva Bhadrapada is ruled by Jupiter itself, making this a strong resonance of spiritual and philosophical ambition. However, it is also symbolized by the front legs of a funeral cot, reflecting intensity, transformation, and the tension between dual identities. It's a nakshatra of radical commitment and inward fire cloaked in outward composure. With Jupiter, the planet of wisdom, expansion, mentors, and dharma, placed here, Sarah may find herself drawn toward teaching, guiding, counseling, institutional roles, or spiritual work in her career. But it won't be linear. Purva Bhadrapada brings sudden karmic events, ideological shifts, and intense ethical dilemmas in the professional path. The 4th Pada maps to Cancer Navamsha, showing that the inner nature of her public work is emotionally driven, nurturing, and protective. Though she may appear philosophical or institutional in her career, Pisces Jupiter, she is internally motivated by a need to care, mother, or emotionally stabilize others, especially in one-on-one or group service roles. Navamsha placement, Cancer in 9th house, inner self of public role. Jupiter in the Navamsha Cancer 9th house represents a soul rooted in emotional morality, maternal wisdom, and intuitive teaching. Internally, Sarah holds deep reverence for emotional intelligence and ancestral guidance. She may attract roles or responsibilities where she serves as a soft power figure, a matriarchal voice in a patriarchal space. The 9th house in Navamsha amplifies the dharma and teaching mandate, but Cancer here infuses it with empathy and karmic caretaking. Sarah is not just here to lead or preach. She's here to hold space for the emotional awakening of others, even within rigid or formal career structures. Integration. Mystical authority versus emotional dharma. Outward style. Pisces Jupiter. Ethical, visionary, drawn to meaningful work that uplifts or guides. May come across as wise beyond years, or as someone meant to lead through compassion and higher knowledge. Inward style. Cancer Navamsha. Quietly nurturing, emotionally intense, spiritually maternal. Feels karmic pressure to guide others, not just intellectually, but emotionally and morally. Core conflict. The outer career may look broad, philosophical, or institutionally respectable, but internally, Sarah yearns for emotional safety, familial work settings, and karmic caregiving roles. She may struggle to reconcile public expectations of achievement with her soul's desire to simply nurture and protect. There may also be emotional entanglement with career mentors or authorities, especially father figures or moral guides. Karmic implication of Jupiter in Purva Bhadrapada, fourth pada. This placement carries past life karma related to moral leadership, spiritual teaching, or ideological rigidity. Sarah may have once led movements, religious orders, or been a truth seeker who alienated others with harsh dogma. In this life, her soul seeks to teach with compassion, to lead without imposing, and to heal her own wounds by holding space for others' moral rebirths. Jupiter in this nakshatra brings a heavy burden of dharma. She must live her truth in the public eye, even when it demands sacrifice. But if done with heart, it brings immense legacy, emotional fulfillment, and quiet reverence. Summary of 10th House Synthesis. Gen Z4's career path is not simply about achievement, it's a soul contract to channel emotional intelligence through ethical leadership. With Jupiter in Purva Bhadrapada and Cancer Navamsha, she must merge spiritual truth with maternal presence, becoming a sacred guide rather than an intellectual authority. Her success lies not in competition, but in spiritual contribution, where her presence becomes a lighthouse for others in transition. When she trusts her emotional compass, her public life blossoms into quiet power and enduring wisdom. 11th House, Aries and Ashwini Nakshatra planets. Placed, Moon in Ashwini Nakshatra, 3rd Pada, Navamsha Gemini, 8th House. Saturn in Ashwini Nakshatra, 3rd Pada, Navamsha Gemini, 8th House. Natal chart expression, alliances, ambitions, community influence, and karma of gains. With Aries in the 11th house, Gen 4 pursues her dreams and social roles with fierce independence, urgency, and pioneering energy. She seeks dynamic, action-oriented networks and isn't afraid to go solo if her pace or ideals aren't matched. However, with Moon and Saturn placed here in Ashwini's 3rd pada, her social karma becomes layered, emotionally impulsive, Moon, yet emotionally restrained and karmically burdened, Saturn. Ashwini, ruled by Ketu, governs beginnings, purification, and spiritualized action. The 3rd pada, mapping to Gemini Navamsha, adds Mercury's flavor of intellect, adaptability, and duality. Both Moon and Saturn here suggest a complex, often contradictory dynamic in friendships, group behavior, and aspirational energy. Moon in Ashwini, 3rd pada, Navamsha Gemini, 8th house. The Moon, governing emotions, mind, and social security, placed in fiery Aries, gives an emotionally independent but easily reactive nature. In Ashwini, this Moon acts fast, feeling first, reflecting later. In the 3rd pada, Gemini Navamsha overlays a mentally active, scattered emotional field, and the 8th house Navamsha placement suggests deep emotional entanglements, secrets, and karmic residue within friendships or community life. Sarah may form quick emotional bonds in groups, only to later feel unsafe, unseen, or emotionally destabilized. The Moon in Gemini 8th also reflects oscillating mental patterns around trust, betrayal, and emotional dependency, especially in female-dominated circles or peer dynamics. Karmic note, the Moon here reveals past life wounds of emotional betrayal or exclusion from alliances, particularly through gossip, secrecy, or misuse of trust. In this life, she must develop emotional detachment and discrimination in who she bonds with socially. Saturn in Ashwini, 3rd pada, Navamsha Gemini, 8th house. Saturn in the 11th house is considered favorable for long-term gains, but in Aries and Ashwini, it feels uncomfortable. Saturn here delays, disciplines, and tests her ability to trust and rely on social networks. The Gemini Navamsha, paired with the 8th house, brings a mental karmic struggle around speech, thought, and alliances that involve shared resources or secrets. This Saturn may cause her to feel alienated or isolated in groups, especially early in life. She may come across as responsible and reserved in teams, but feels burdened by invisible expectations or judgments. When combined with the moon in the same Pada and Navamsha, there is a strong possibility of emotionally suppressed communication, especially in group dynamics, where she feels she cannot fully express her thoughts or needs. Karmic note: Saturn here reflects karma around misused authority or abandonment within past life social hierarchies. Now she is meant to rebuild trust slowly, establishing boundaries and discerning loyalty over popularity. Integration: emotional fluctuation meets social restraint. Moon, Gemini Navamsha 8th, feels drawn to intense, emotionally charged networks, but may retreat or fragment when discomfort arises, vulnerable to psychic overload or emotional withdrawal. Saturn, 8th, internally cautious, suspicious, and reluctant to fully invest in social life. Gains come through long-term, tested alliances, not spontaneous connections. Core conflict: Sarah experiences a push-pull between the emotional need for belonging, Moon, and the karmic pressure of self-protection, Saturn. In groups, she may oscillate between oversharing and total withdrawal, and struggles with trusting others with her aspirations or vulnerabilities. Karmic implication of Moon-Saturn in Ashwini 3rd Pada: this combination reflects a soul who has experienced emotional abandonment or betrayal within collective structures, possibly as a revolutionary, healer, or truth-bearer who was excluded. In this life, her path involves relearning trust, choosing stable over exciting friendships, and cultivating emotionally safe networks through boundaries and discernment. Summary of 11th House Synthesis. Gen Z4's social and aspirational journey is marked by karmic paradoxes. She wants rapid progress and deep connection, but must walk a slower, more careful path. The Moon's sensitivity and Saturn's suppression, both in Ashwini and Gemini 8th Navamsha, highlight that her greatest gains come when she stabilizes her emotional currents, tempers impulsivity, and builds alliances rooted in loyalty and shared transformation. Her soul is here not to gather many friends, but to walk with a few who hold sacred space for her evolution. 12th house, Taurus in Mrigashira and Kritika Nakshatras, planets placed: Venus in Mrigashira, 1st Pada, Navamsha Leo, 10th house, Mars in Kritika, 2nd Pada, Navamsha Capricorn, 3rd house. Hamar, natal chart expression: subconscious mind, loss, isolation, spiritual surrender. The 12th house governs the unseen dimensions: spiritual surrender, subconscious drives, foreign influences, isolation, and karmic dissolution. With Taurus on this cusp, Sarah brings sensuality, stability, and material attachment into this deeply dissolving space. She subconsciously seeks emotional comfort and physical security, even when life demands letting go. But with Venus and Mars both placed here, rulers of desire and action, this house becomes a karmic battleground between what she wants, what she fights for, and what she must relinquish. Let's explore them individually. Venus in Mrigashira, 1st Pada, Navamsha Leo. 10th house Venus in the 12th represents karmic entanglements in love, comfort, beauty, and validation. In Mrigashira, ruled by Mars and associated with seeking, questioning, and refinement, Venus becomes a restless seeker of ideal relationships, pleasures, or beauty that often remains just out of reach. The 1st Pada, mapping to Leo Navamsha, suggests she seeks admiration and radiance in love, but from behind the veil, preferring admiration at a distance or in secret. Venus in the 12th may indicate hidden romances, secret creative gifts, or sacrifices in the name of love. With Leo Navamsha in the 10th house, Sarah's internal identity is driven to shine, create, and be respected publicly. But her path to that expression often involves loss, delay, or invisible labor. She may love deeply, but give away too much of herself in search of affection or acceptance. Karmic note: Venus in this Pada reflects past life patterns of egoic indulgence or abandonment in love, and now she must learn to balance love with self-worth, even when that love isn't returned or acknowledged. Mars in Kritika, 2nd Pada, Navamsha Capricorn, 3rd house. Mars in the 12th house represents suppressed anger, hidden drive, or karmic exhaustion from past struggles. In Kritika, ruled by the Sun and symbolizing purification and cutting, Mars is fierce, incisive, and uncompromising. The 2nd Pada, mapping to Capricorn Navamsha, gives this Mars a disciplined, strategic, and externally focused flavor, especially toward communication and personal courage. Third house Navamsha placement. Mars here can make Sarah highly productive and driven, but in isolation or unseen environments. She may do her best work behind the scenes or feel compelled to prove herself through over-effort while suppressing deep frustration. Mars in Kritika in the 12th may also show past life karma related to violence, betrayal, or unexpressed rage, now demanding she find peace and wise restraint rather than external confrontation. Karmic note: this Mars has come to purify karmic action, to learn when to fight, when to walk away, and how to channel her fire into systems that endure, not burn out. Integration: sensual withdrawal versus strategic suffering. Venus, Leo Navamsha, 10th house, secretly craves admiration and legacy, needs to feel loved in ways that make her feel visible, but often sacrifices this for the sake of peace or illusion. Mars, Capricorn Navamsha, 3rd house, strategically driven, subconsciously competitive, suppresses anger to appear composed, but may burst under pressure or when efforts go unrecognized. Core conflict: Sarah longs for connection, Venus, and achievement, Mars, yet both play out through isolation, secrecy, and loss. She may form bonds that are emotionally intense but hidden, or work hard behind the scenes without due credit, creating cycles of internal frustration and external invisibility. Karmic implication of Venus and Mars in Taurus, 12th house. These placements reflect unfinished past life karma around pleasure, desire, and action. Perhaps she once chose love or power at the expense of integrity. In this life, she must detach from external validation, release the need to be seen, and learn that true worth and action require no audience. Her healing lies in embracing solitude, not as exile but as empowerment, where her creative, loving, and disciplined nature can be rebuilt away from the noise of the world. Summary of 12th house synthesis. With Venus and Mars in Taurus in the 12th, Sarah's relationship with love, effort, and desire is being spiritually restructured. Venus brings emotional longing and aesthetic gifts, while Mars brings drive wrapped in sacrifice. Her path is to quietly burn away patterns of emotional dependency and reactive striving, and emerge with disciplined self-love, quiet mastery, and unshakable inner value. Through loss, she reclaims sovereignty. Through surrender, she gains strength.